My fiancé was keeping a popular young idol on the side. One day, he suddenly showed up in front of me, causing trouble. He claimed Victoria Bellwether had stopped a high-speed train for him, and had even canceled a $300 million deal just to take him to see the Northern Lights. He asked me, wasn't the unloved one the real third wheel? What did that make me, her fiancé? Just a pawn in a marriage alliance. I laughed. What was I? I was the one pulling the strings. Chapter 1. Victoria Bellwether and I had been engaged for a year, but recently I hadn't seen her in 3 months. Yet rumors constantly reached my ears. Even while waiting for the elevator, I could overhear employees gossiping about the latest news. Did you see the trending topics? Someone stopped a high-speed train, apparently. It was to find someone, and they ended up taking that top idol, Julian Thorne, away. I saw it this morning, but the topic vanished from the trending list a second later. Does Julian Thorne really have a girlfriend? He's a top-tier idol. How can he be dating? I checked the forums. It's highly likely. Rumor has it Julian has a sugar mama girlfriend. They supposedly had a fight, and in a fit of anger, the rich girlfriend stopped the high-speed train. Wow, even though idols aren't. T's supposed to date a super-rich girlfriend. Maybe that's acceptable. I took a deep breath to suppress the anger rising within me. Victoria was really crossing the line. We had known each other for 20 years. When she turned 18, we got engaged, formally celebrating it a year ago. I once believed our childhood connection meant we'd be different from the typical arranged marriages in our circle. Now it seemed I was too naive. A year ago, her entertainment company signed Julian Thorne. In less than a year, Victoria had transformed him from an unknown face into one of the industry's top idols. And Julian, to his credit, wasn't just a pretty face. He had the basic talent required for an idol. Still, he was more style than substance. After exiting the elevator, I got into my car, and the driver headed towards the gathering spot. Today, Ethan Miller had arranged a get-together to welcome me back. He's one of my closest childhood friends, practically a brother. My name is Sincere Clark. His is Ethan Miller. Friends often joke we're brothers from different mothers. He had insisted in the group chat that everyone had to be there, including Victoria. She had agreed in the chat. Although I was angry with Victoria, this needed to be discussed later. She had done something shameless, but I still had my dignity to maintain. Walking into the private room, I heard Ethan's younger sister, Chloe Miller, complaining indignantly. And to think I used to be a huge fan of Julian Thorne, turns out he's just a homewrecker. Remember when Julian was doing all those variety shows? Victoria flew everywhere with him, calling it supervising an employee. Yeah, right, I heard after Victoria stopped the train and dragged him back, he threw another tantrum and ran off to Las Vegas. Victoria postponed a week's worth of meetings and flew halfway across the world to pacify him. And she even waited in line for him at a fried chicken place for 3.5 hours. Unbelievable. The nerve. I frowned slightly, then composed myself, pushing the door open with a neutral expression. Chapter 2. Seeing it was me, Chloe immediately hushed, forcing an awkward smile as she hid behind her brother Ethan. Sincere, you're here, quick. Sit down. I'm a week younger than Ethan, so his sister calls him Big Bro and me second brother, or just Sincere. I nodded in greeting and sat down in the chair she pulled out for me. Today was just a small gathering of close friends. Besides the Miller siblings, I was surprised to see another woman present, Victoria's older half-sister Isabel Ashworth. They shared the same father, Arthur Bellwether. Years ago, Arthur had an arranged marriage with Isabel's mother, Catherine Ashworth. Later, he had an affair with Victoria's mother. When her mother became pregnant, she confronted Arthur's wife, leading to a divorce. Isabel went with her mother, Catherine. Isabel and I nodded at each other. Given our history, I suspected her presence here was no accident. We had just finished a game of pool when Victoria pushed the door open. It had been 3 months, but she looked the same, stunningly beautiful, the epitome of a powerful businesswoman. She seemed taken aback seeing me playing pool with her sister, perhaps surprised to see me, or maybe Isabel. She sat down next to me, and I habitually served her some food. We chatted casually, as if the woman Chloe described stopping a train for love wasn't her. I glanced at her, a sharp pain stabbing my heart. I told myself this was just a facade after all. I had received concrete information, but the raw facts were laid bare before me, and I couldn't just ignore them. So many years of shared history, growing up together, childhood sweethearts. To say I wasn't emotionally invested would be a lie. But I hadn't expected this. Just after dinner, there was a knock on the door. A moment later, a man dressed in a butler-style outfit walked in. He wore suit pants and a shirt, but also sported dog ears on his head and a dog tail attached to his backside. The shirt wasn't a standard dress shirt either, but a sheer white chiffon material paired with a leather harness. It was the standard lean muscle look popular in short videos, made more suggestive by the black mask he wore. Under the warm restaurant lighting, the curves beneath the fabric were faintly visible, drawing the eye. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Isabel, sitting opposite me, raise an eyebrow, nodding towards Victoria beside me. Victoria was staring intently at Julian. Ethan's mood instantly darkened. He slammed his wine glass onto the table with a sharp crack. His tone was utterly contemptuous. He knew exactly who Julian was here for. Well, who ordered the gigolo? Isn't he a bit early? Rather unprofessional. Ethan was hosting tonight to welcome me back. Julian showing up like this was a direct slap in his face. Whether defending my honor or his own, Ethan wasn't going to be polite to Julian. Julian looked flustered, clearly not expecting such harsh words. He forced a smile. Actually, I'm here for a little event. I wanted to randomly invite a lady present to participate. If she wins, I have a prize. At this, Chloe burst out laughing. Having once been a fan, how could she not recognize him? Besides, Julian's gaze was far too obvious. There's nothing more vicious than a fan-turned-critic. Hilarious. Why are the waiters here dressed so cheaply? Win your prize. What's the prize, you? The Miller siblings were merciless. Mostly because Julian's attire was so outrageous. Anyone could see he wasn't a waiter here. Giving him an out was out of the question. It was too embarrassing. Having such a person disrupt a proper gathering, Ethan immediately pressed the service bell, calling the manager to have him removed. But just then Victoria gave him an opening. It's just a game, right? I'll play with you. With that, she grabbed her bag, not even sparing me a glance, and took Julian's hand, leading him out of the room. The room fell into an eerie silence, the only sound the soft bubbling of the simmering stew on the table. A large bubble rose from the bottom of the pot, scattering the fresh cilantro sprinkled over the dish, the green herbs contrasting vibrantly with the glistening broth, releasing a fragrant aroma. Everyone held their breath, carefully watching my expression. I slowly finished the soup in my bowl without saying a word. No one else dared to speak. I stood up, muttered, "I have something to attend to," and left the room. Chapter 3. Isabel followed me out. She saw me call Victoria, only to be sent straight to voicemail, followed by a text message. Urgent company matter. Before I could even manage a smirk, Isabel burst out laughing. Pfft. Playing with her boy toy is urgent business. I put my phone away, plastering on a fake smile. Isabel, isn't it rude to read other people's messages? She offered me a cigarette, and we sat down in the pavilion behind the restaurant. I had known the Bellwether sisters since childhood, though after Arthur's affair, I rarely saw Isabel after the age of 5. I never objected to the arranged marriage with the Bellwether family, specifically with Victoria. That's how our circle operates. Mutually beneficial alliances are natural. But for Victoria to suddenly find true love after the engagement was simply absurd. Isabel asked me what I planned to do. Was the wedding still on? I replied, "We'll see." Then, I immediately called Victoria's grandparents, Reginald Bellwether and his wife, adding fuel to the fire, hoping they could talk some sense into her. Right now, Victoria certainly wasn't receptive to my input. Later, I heard the incident infuriated her grandfather so much that even her father got chewed out, and a project under his control was transferred to the first Bellwether branch. After that, I heard nothing more about Victoria and Julian. My family, however, wasn't satisfied with this outcome. Cheating is cheating. Once tainted, always tainted. But the engagement party had already happened. Breaking it off required more than just this incident. Fortunately, just when I needed it, an opportunity presented itself. Someone else was dissatisfied with the situation and would inevitably seek me out. Chloe Miller's birthday was at the end of the month. As her second brother, her birthday party served a dual purpose, celebrating her birthday and networking for various families. The party was held at the Miller family estate. When her brother Ethan was organizing the guest list, he showed it to me. One performer was specially invited, Julian Thorne. Ethan had mentioned it, making the excuse that Chloe used to be a fan and now wanted to get back at him. I smiled and agreed. As a popular idol skilled in singing and dancing, Julian naturally had to be professional on stage. Many recognized him. After his performance, Julian was supposed to toast Chloe and offer birthday wishes. However, after toasting her, he turned to me. "I'm Julian Thorne." I looked him up and down, finding the situation incredibly amusing. Today was Chloe's birthday party. Strutting over to me like this showed immense disrespect to the Millers. Chloe was already planning to give him a hard time, seeking revenge for herself and defending me. Now he had walked right into the line of fire. Seeing none of us respond, Chloe slammed her glass down. "Are you insane? Didn't your manager teach you any manners before you came out? What kind of lowlife are you? Security, throw him out." Chloe's voice was loud. Her close friends knew about her fan-turned-critic stance, and several immediately chimed in. "You were just hired to perform, to liven things up. Did you think you were here to find a sugar mama? Even if you're looking for a sponsor, you need some tact, right? Don't you know to approach respectfully? And now you're deliberately blocking our view of the next act. So pathetic." Security guards moved forward. Unexpectedly, Julian, who presumably maintained his physique, had some strength. After struggling briefly, he put on an act, collapsing to the ground. His glass fell, shattering and cutting his hand. Yet, a triumphant smirk played on his face. He raised an eyebrow at me. "Sincere Clark, you had security throw me out. Now I'm injured. Victoria won't let you get away with this." I had to admit, thanks to Victoria's financial backing, Julian, as a top idol, had a face worth looking at. But did all his talent points go into his face? Was there none left for brains? Chloe, having been completely ignored throughout this, was furious. She stood up, ready to kick Julian, but I quickly stopped her. While Chloe was trying to get her revenge and vent my anger, making an enemy of Victoria right now wasn't strategically sound for the Millers. It was obvious this guy was targeting me. I settled back onto the sofa, looking down at Julian sprawled on the floor. It took him a couple of seconds to react. He scrambled up, tilting his head back defiantly, like a peacock displaying its feathers indiscriminately. "Victoria doesn't love you. Why do you insist on standing between us?" "Expressionless," I retorted, and he seemed stunned that I only said one word, then flushed with anger. "So please leave Victoria alone because of you." Victoria, and even her father, got scolded by the old man. She was grounded, and her authority was diminished. "This is all your fault." I took a sip of wine, swirling the glass. Seems my one phone call carries that much weight. Then Victoria isn't that capable after all, is she? I paused, then added deliberately, "As for you, Mr. Homewrecker, are you here to defend Victoria?" My words silenced the surrounding crowd. They hadn't dared mention the affair in front of me, but now that I brought it up myself, they instantly rallied to my side. Is this another case of an entertainment industry homewrecker provoking the main partner? God, men and women in that circle both love this drama. They think we care about appearances, so they shamelessly try to force our hand. Don't they realize this could get them killed? Whose pet is this? So disobedient. Contemptuous gazes fell upon Julian. His face turned deathly pale, but he remained defiant. "You and Victoria have a business arrangement. Victoria and I are in love. I'm not a homewrecker. Victoria Bellwether and I are engaged, witnessed by both our families. You can find news of our engagement party online any time. And what are you? If not the homewrecker, are you number 4? Julian's face flushed crimson, his fists clenched. I turned my attention to the young starlet who had just walked onto the stage. I'm already a top-tier idol. I make over $100 million a year through my own talent. I have several luxury brand endorsements. You're just a wealthy heir who got lucky being born rich, but what good is that? Your sister already runs the company. You have no real power or prospects. In the Clark family, aren't you just a pawn for a marriage alliance? Looking at Julian, who clearly thought he'd won this round, I laughed out loud. Honestly, I was starting to seriously question Victoria's taste. Maybe she inherited her mother's tendency to be blinded by love. Achieving financial freedom under Victoria Bellwether's entertainment company? Yes, that's quite impressive. But what's the difference between you and that starlet on stage? Luxury endorsements? Aren't you just their mascot? A high-end salesman? You think you've achieved financial freedom, but you and I are different. I am the one who controls the wealth. Ignoring his increasingly ugly expression, I continued. You've simply been shown a glimpse of the top by Victoria and now want to stay here legitimately. Unfortunately, you picked the wrong person to confront. You shouldn't have come to me. Class is an insurmountable chasm. The only reason you can stand here talking to me is because of Victoria. If she weren't my fiancée, you wouldn't even have the right to speak to me, let alone meet me. It was rare for me to speak so condescendingly, but Julian provoking me repeatedly had worn my patience thin. I didn't believe Victoria was unaware of this. She was merely pretending ignorance, tacitly allowing it. Mr. Homewrecker, I heard you wanted Victoria's Gulfstream G700, but she refused you. Did she ever tell you that private jet was a gift from my family to our future daughter-in-law? Julian's face froze. I knew it. I pressed on. Oh, you didn't know that? Seems she doesn't tell you everything, or maybe she's just playing with you. Otherwise, why did that high-speed train story disappear from the headlines so quickly, as if she didn't want anyone to know? My words shattered Julian's self-assured confidence. He had assumed Victoria suppressed the news only to protect his career. He had come here so brazenly, and Victoria, clearly aware, hadn't stopped him. He genuinely believed Victoria cared for him, that she was willing to stand against the world with him. But I knew Victoria absolutely would not. Setting aside the internal struggles among the 3 Bellwether family branches, just within Victoria's own branch, the second, she had Isabel, her older half-sister born from the first marriage, hovering above her. Furthermore, Arthur Bellwether had an illegitimate son out there, and that was only what I knew about. Therefore, Victoria couldn't afford to lose my family's backing just yet, or all her hard work in suppressing the first branch would be wasted. After I finished speaking, the eyes of the surrounding socialites were fixed on me, as if I were suddenly a hot commodity. I stood up and left Chloe's birthday party. Everyone understood I was angry now. My fiancée's lover confronting me publicly like this, especially at someone else's birthday party. It wasn't just an offense against me, but against the Miller family as well. Chapter 5. Shortly after I returned home, the butler, Mr. Finch, informed me I had a visitor. I went downstairs to find Isabel Ashworth, Victoria's older sister. Seeing me descend, she remained seated on the sofa perfectly still, as if she owned the place. Without any show of impatience, I sat down opposite her, waiting for her to speak. My dear half-sister really is something else, she began, not even coming to you with an explanation. I remained silent, quietly reviewing the contract Isabel handed me. Just as I suspected, Isabel still harbored resentment towards the Bellwethers. At this point, in the context of this marriage alliance, Victoria was already out of the picture. As for the Bellwether family itself, honestly, I wasn't keen on continuing the partnership. The thought was somewhat nauseating. The initial reason my family arranged the marriage with Victoria was primarily suitability. There were only a few families suitable for an alliance. Victoria and I were childhood sweethearts, and at the time, we genuinely cared for each other. It seemed like a natural progression. Unfortunately, we didn't make it to the end. I had spent countless nights wondering if I wasn't good enough, if that was why she strayed and did such things. But ultimately, logic prevailed. If Victoria Bellwether showed no loyalty, then I, Sincere Clark, owed her none. At least these things came to light before the wedding, preventing our family's assets from becoming entangled. That would have been truly disgusting. Something I'd have had to swallow no matter how vile. I agreed to Isabel's proposal. The next day, news that the Clark and Bellwether families were calling off the engagement spread like wildfire online. My parents, David and Mary Clark, were incredibly efficient, and my sister Blair and I were no slouches either. They issued an official statement canceling the marriage, maintaining a veneer of harmony, while stating we remained business partners. Meanwhile, Blair and I secretly fed information to gossip bloggers and paparazzi. Mixing 3 parts truth with 7 parts fabrication, the gossip hounds eager for such stories swarmed. Combined with the power of netizens, the truth was quickly unearthed. Wild speculations spiraled out of control. Finally, with the help of resourceful netizens, the story of Victoria stopping the high-speed train, which she had paid heavily to suppress, climbed back to the top trending spot, exploding in popularity. Netizens who followed high society gossip couldn't sit still. Stopping a high-speed train. How much unnecessary work did that create for countless ordinary workers? And all just as a backdrop for Victoria and Julian's affair. Suddenly, everyone affected by the train stoppage became unwilling participants in their love drama. When a major paparazzo revealed Julian's name, everything clicked into place. Those previously shadowy photos and videos instantly became ironclad proof. Julian's former girlfriend fans massively turned against him. This kind of scandal and idol falling from grace was the most unacceptable type in the entertainment industry. It's an unwritten rule. Idols cannot date now. Julian had not only broken the rule, but had also been labeled a homewrecker. This was a stain on his former fans. Yet some loyal fans remained, desperately defending him. One of Julian's wealthy fans even bought him a new trending topic: Bellwether heiress stops high-speed train for my idol. True love is blameless. Julian deserves it. The more they dug, the worse it got. It was unclear if this was genuine damage control or deliberate sabotage. Regardless, this trending topic reignited several previously suppressed issues. The internet was flooded with negative press about Julian. At the same time, scandals concerning the Bellwether Corporation and Victoria herself were dredged up. Massive Bellwether family scandal. Victoria Bellwether's mother rose to prominence as the other woman, forced out original wife. Illegitimate son in Bellwether Corporation. Bellwether Corporation tax evasion. Chapter 6. A week passed like this. They say success makes people glow, and it's true. I had blocked all of Victoria's contact methods these past few days, but today, they finally managed to corner me. To my surprise, the visitors included not only Victoria, but also her mother, Eleanor, and Julian. Eleanor Bellwether started as a young model, later dabbled in acting and variety shows. This contributed to Victoria's good looks. Unfortunately, while Arthur Bellwether might have been easily swayed by love, he was primarily driven by looks. Years ago, against everyone's advice, he divorced his first wife, Isabel's mother, Catherine Ashworth, the heiress of the prominent Ashworth family. Not long after, he cheated again. This time, Eleanor put her foot down, preventing Arthur from bringing the illegitimate child home, never imagining her supposed true love would only last a few years. Having caused a sensation as the other woman, she couldn't accept being cheated on herself. From then on, she focused all her energy on grooming Victoria for success, relentless, pushy parenting. Sincere, dear, long time no see. You look wonderful. Seems life is treating you well. Eleanor's words dripped with sarcasm. Julian, ever the low EQ type, chimed in. Yes, you look great, Sincere. Crash. Before he could finish, my sister Blair from the second-floor landing hurled her coffee cup straight at him. With a loud bang, the cup and its remaining coffee exploded near the trio. What is this trash doing in the Clark house? The entire living room fell silent. My sister stood on the landing, looking down like a queen surveying her domain. I subtly shifted my position. Thankfully, my sister has good aim. Even when grumpy from just waking up, she wouldn't accidentally hit her own brother. Thank goodness the cup wasn't large, and there wasn't much coffee left. The scene was incredibly awkward. Julian and Eleanor jumped up, too stunned to speak. Victoria, however, had weathered storms before. She took a deep breath to compose herself. My sister walked down the stairs, hands stuffed in her pockets, her tone casual. "Sorry, just woke up, still groggy. Next time, I'll aim better." Eleanor flushed red and white, stung by Blair's retort. Victoria stood up, paused, then addressed my sister. "Blair, I came today to apologize. This was indeed my fault. We grew up together. Could I possibly see Uncle David and Aunt Mary? I want to apologize to them in person." Blair scoffed, glanced at me. I quickly vacated the armchair for her and moved aside. "Don't call me Blair like that. My parents only have 2 children, my brother and me. Where did I suddenly gain another sister? As for apologizing, this doesn't look much like an apology tour to me. They were all seasoned players." Victoria directly stated her terms, offering concessions, but Blair remained unmoved. Victoria upped the ante again. Only then did Blair deign to look interested. I made a soft tisk sound. Julian immediately lost his composure. "Sincere Clark, don't push it. We've already made such huge concessions. What more do you want?" I smiled, a smirk playing on my lips. "Mr. Bellwether Sr. was just talking to my parents last night for quite a while. Mentioned that Isabel Ashworth is also part of your Bellwether family." Before I could finish, Victoria erupted. "Sincere Clark, I forbid it." I raised an eyebrow. "What position are you in to interfere in my marriage decisions?" Ultimately, Victoria made further painful concessions, forcing Julian to apologize to me. As they left, Julian's eyes were red, like a little girl's. Truly fitting for a male idol, grow his hair out, and he could probably compete with the female idols for roles. Chapter 7. Victoria reached an agreement with my sister, but not with me. While Blair might not actively torment them on the surface, my sister is my sister and I am me. I never said this was over. Blair looked over the pile of spoils, the concessions Victoria made, and looked up at me. "Lil' bro, I'm temporarily stepping back. What about your end?" I nodded. "It's time for Isabel Ashworth and that other illegitimate son, Quentin Shaw, to make their move." Yes, the Bellwether family had another illegitimate son, Quentin Shaw. Don't let the refined-sounding name fool you. He was a dark, brooding character. Arthur Bellwether never acknowledged his mother, Eliza Shaw, nor did he care much for his son. Quentin hadn't had an easy life, especially since Eleanor Bellwether had once tried to have both him and his mother killed. Later, Quentin's mother, Eliza, worn down by hardship and resentment while raising him, developed cancer from years of stress and overwork, and eventually passed away. The grudge ran deep. Now, Victoria had to return and face off against both Isabel and Quentin. Oh right, I heard the first and third Bellwether branches had also joined the fray. The internal conflict was raging fiercely. However, Julian Thorne became infamous throughout the industry. Outsiders believed Victoria had dumped me for Julian, defying the world for him, and I became a laughingstock behind the scenes. The Bellwether family refused to comment while Julian continued to gloat, flaunting his relationship within his own circle. But how stable was his circle? Weren't people in entertainment just as prone to kissing up and kicking down? Did he really think there were no paparazzi among his friends, or people willing to sell out his private posts? The things he posted in his private social media circles were quickly obtained by paparazzi, leading to another round of public feasting on the gossip. Victoria was still the public face of the Bellwether family, but with such major negative press, even the family couldn't protect her. Soon, under the combined assault from Isabel and the newly acknowledged Quentin Shaw, Victoria was forced to step down. And at that moment, I brought my own company, Obsidian Tech, into play, fully backing Isabel. Obsidian Tech was my overseas venture, not yet introduced to the domestic market. Even based overseas, it was considered a top-tier company. This was my hidden ace. After all, having both children in a prominent family be overly successful tends to attract unwanted attention. Forget whether people in this circle have shame, some are genuinely dangerous. So I had always played the part of the spoiled, aimless, wealthy heir. When the news broke, even our inner circle was stunned, especially since old Mr. Bellwether himself had recently let slip that the family had another daughter, Isabel Ashworth, using her former name. My move prompted widespread speculation. Were the Clark and Bellwether families going to form an alliance after all, just with a different daughter? After I broke off the engagement with Victoria, many who wanted to curry favor with my family had snubbed the Bellwethers. If our families reconciled, they would be in an awkward position. Lately, the phone at home hadn't stopped ringing. My parents cleverly disappeared, leaving Blair and me to handle it. Blair, the sly fox, immediately took a business trip abroad. As fate would have it, she ran straight into Victoria at the airport overseas. Victoria confronted Blair, demanding to know why she went back on her word and why Obsidian Tech was under my name. Blair feigned ignorance, expertly deflecting. She stated Obsidian Tech had always been mine. As for supporting Isabel, my brother likes her. Why should I interfere? My move threw the Bellwether family into further chaos. Clark Corporation didn't directly attack Bellwether Corp. Instead, it paved the way for my Obsidian Tech in the domestic market. But this very subtlety made countless other companies eager to grab a piece of the pie. They reasoned my family must know what I was doing. Knowing, yet not acting, what did that imply? Tacit approval. Indulgence. Permission to go big with the Clark Corporation as my safety net. Nobody truly wanted the Bellwether battle to end quickly. They hoped to weaken the company, ideally with the main players destroying each other. After a month of turmoil, the Bellwether family split into two factions, the first and third branches allied together, while Isabel and the illegitimate son Quentin surprisingly teamed up. The two forces reached a strange equilibrium. Then, suddenly, Isabel and Quentin's side began losing ground rapidly, seemingly about to be disqualified. The first and third branches couldn't sit still any longer. Faced with enormous potential gains, their alliance proved meaningless. Ultimately, the first branch emerged victorious again. Once in power, they immediately began purging remnants of the opposing factions. Throughout the company, the policy was ruthless. Better to mistakenly eliminate 1,000 than let one enemy slip through. This aggressive tactic was something Isabel and Quentin had initiated when they briefly gained ground, deliberately showing the others how it was done. But taking the long view, although the purge was brutal, those who remained were loyalists. Resentment simmered throughout the company. The first branch, seemingly venting years of repressed anger from being overshadowed by Victoria, acted recklessly. Meanwhile, Isabel and Quentin simply rented an office next door and hired back everyone purged by the Bellwethers, including many veteran employees. The time was ripe. Someone preemptively leaked years of dirt on the first and third branches. The revealed content was explosive, sparking public outrage. Scathing online comments followed, truly birds of a feather. First, the second branch stops a high-speed train for love. Then the first branch drives an SUV into the National Museum. And the third branch claims a restricted hall in the Capitol building isn't as grand as their own. Subsequently, the leaders of the first and third branches were taken away for investigation. All that remained were Isabel, Quentin, and Victoria. As the granddaughter old Reginald Bellwether had cherished for years, Victoria was pushed to the forefront once again. Reginald knew Isabel had long since been welcomed back by the Ashworth family. Her fight was purely to spite them. As for Quentin, returning so late with a tainted background made him unsuitable. After careful consideration, only Victoria seemed appropriate. Then I countered by releasing evidence of Eleanor Bellwether's persecution of Quentin's mother. The Miller siblings also packaged and released the video of Julian confronting me at the party, adding more fuel to the chaotic fire. My sister stretched languidly, asking impatiently, "Little bro, can we speed this up? Let me inject some capital into Obsidian, you leverage it further, or I'll just have Clark Corp step in directly. Let's wrap this up." I shook my head, indicating no rush. Blair got agitated. "I understand you're the injured party. You want them to feel the slow burn, the death by 1,000 cuts. You're enjoying it, but I'm really impatient, eager to make money," I smiled, silently accelerating the endgame. My sister's bloodline suppression, her innate authority over me, was still effective. Perhaps if Victoria had just been honest with me from the start, none of this would have happened. Wanting the benefits of the alliance, wanting a romance with me, and then playing the true love card with someone else, it truly disgusted me to my core. Ultimately, the Bellwether Corporation crumbled. Everyone knew it now belonged to Isabel Ashworth and Quentin Shaw. Just as people expected a new round of competition between them, they unexpectedly offered the largest piece of the pie, the core assets, to me. The day I formally accepted the Bellwether lifeline they handed over, I sat in the small rooftop garden of the Clark Corporation building, gazing at the stars. Memories flooded back like a tide, but the face of the person in them grew increasingly blurry. My assistant, Thomas, informed me that Victoria Bellwether was begging to see me. I agreed. Seeing her again, she had changed. Just over a year ago, she was a stunning, glamorous, commanding CEO. Now her cheeks were hollowed, dark circles under her eyes too prominent to conceal. Her once lustrous hair was dull with faint strands of white. Though not yet 30, fine lines already webbed the corners of her eyes. The toll of the past year's struggles was evident. Honestly, I had actively avoided her this past year. I was afraid that seeing her again, I wouldn't be able to control my fury, that I'd make her and her family disappear far too quickly. I didn't want to end up on the wrong side of the law, but I didn't want to let her off easily either. Why should I be the stepping stone, footing the bill for her and Julian's love story? So I hid, not out of fear, but to slowly personally witness it all. Watch her rise high, watch her entertain guests, watch the building collapse, a pile of ruins. Nothing left. She had to suffer more than I did. That was only right. I hadn't expected her to come begging for mercy, even offering herself to me. Perhaps over the past year, her pride had been utterly stripped away. After all, the story of her mother rising to prominence as the pregnant other woman had long been exposed by Isabel. And she, once the high and mighty, sought-after Bellwether CEO, had plummeted to become the type of person our circle most despised, associated with scandal and illegitimacy. The fall was immense. Before she arrived, I had imagined myself telling her smugly, "See, this is the fate of those who betray true feelings." But now, facing her, it just felt unnecessary, pointless. "This is the last time we meet, Victoria Bellwether. From now on, there would only be a vast chasm between us." My phone rang. I answered it. It was Isabel's voice on the other end. No, wait, I should call her Isabel Ashworth now. She had reverted to her mother's surname. "Sincere Clark, you've used me for so long. Don't you think you owe me some proper compensation? You can't put it like that. You did this willingly." "So I was willing. But are you willing?" I paused for a moment. Just as Isabel sighed, thinking I wouldn't answer, I said, "I'm willing to talk." My old flame, my white moonlight, mocked me mercilessly at her wedding, but she had no idea her super-rich father-in-law was my lackey. At a high school reunion, I saw the girl I had a crush on back in our school days, but I never expected that my white moonlight from back then had now become such a materialistic piece of trash. "Sincere Sterling, that tricycle at the entrance must be yours, right? Ride it further away, don't scratch my husband's car." Victoria Vale's tone was mocking as she swayed her hips and sat down next to the former school bully. "Forget it, honey. It's just a Panamera, nothing too expensive." Watching the car keys in the school bully's hand, listening to the crowd's fawning praises, I picked up my phone and made a call. That car at the entrance, wreck it. Chapter 1. After graduating from college, I never once attended a high school reunion. There were many reasons, including the hardships of starting my own business, but more fundamentally, it was because my old classmates felt that given my status, I wasn't qualified to dine with them. After all, back then, I was just an orphan who had lost both parents. I even paid for my tuition through part-time jobs and scholarships. The nicknames Jinx and Scrapper followed me throughout my youth, so I really had no fond memories of my high school classmates. So when Barnaby Post, my high school class monitor, messaged me, I had no interest in attending the reunion until he told me Victoria Vale would also be there. I think every boy has his own ideal girl etched in his memory. Victoria Vale was my ideal girl. In those dark and depressing years, only Victoria Vale was my sole ray of light. Only she would extend a helping hand to me when I was curled up in a corner, covered in bruises. I'll be there. Remembering the smile on Victoria Vale's face that year, and her amber eyes under the sunlight, I agreed immediately. I had my assistant, Alex Preston, clear my entire schedule for that day. I ordered a custom-made suit a week in advance, and even went to a salon on the day of the reunion for styling. From my hair to my leather shoes, everything was perfectly coordinated. Only when it came to the car, I chose the most inconspicuous sedan. On the way, images of Victoria Vale kept flashing through my mind. Now I finally had the standing to confess my feelings to her. Well, sincere Sterling, long time no see or quite early. I had just stepped out of the elevator when I ran into Barnaby Post standing at the entrance. He used to be the teacher's pet in class, always with a smile on his face, looking like a smooth operator. But I would never forget how, in our sophomore year, after he reported a couple for puppy love, he falsely pinned the blame on me. This led to me being ostracized, beaten, and berated by my classmates, and he just stood behind the crowd, giving me an innocent smile. "Old classmate, you really haven't changed a bit." Barnaby Post walked over and patted my shoulder. His once slender frame had become slightly plump, and even the gold-rimmed glasses that used to give him an air of a refined scoundrel now made him look like a cunning businessman. I shifted slightly, avoiding further contact, and put on a commercial smile. "You neither." Barnaby Post wasn't embarrassed. He withdrew his hand and started reminiscing. "So, what are you doing now?" I opened my mouth to answer, but a shrill female voice sounded from behind Barnaby. And this voice, I knew it all too well. It was Chloe Young's. What else could he be doing? Working for someone, of course. Chloe Young, wearing a white shirt and a black leather skirt, strode towards us in her boots. The look she gave me was just as disdainful as it had been in high school. Chloe was, arguably, one of the people who detested me most in high school, simply because I had rejected her confession back in our freshman year. In Chloe's eyes, this made me ungrateful. Barnaby Post chuckled awkwardly, his gaze towards me no longer as enthusiastic as before. "Working for someone is fine too. Isn't that what most of us do?" Chloe Young snorted coldly and said, "Sincere Sterling, you're dressed quite decently. Must have cost a fortune, huh? We're all old classmates here. Who doesn't know whose background? Why bother with all this superficial nonsense? Besides, some things, if a person isn't born with them, they'll never have them, even in death. Look at Jason Vance. He inherited his family's company right after college. Now that's what I call a life at its peak." "Chloe, don't praise me so much, you're making me blush." A deep male voice came from behind me, and Chloe's eyes instantly lit up. Instinctively, my body tensed, and I turned around. The first thing I saw was Victoria Vale in a red dress, and on her arm the man who hadn't changed a bit from before, Jason Vance, my high school nightmare. Chapter 2. The high school I attended was just an ordinary secondary school, but it inevitably had some rich second-generation kids who ran amok. Among them, Jason Vance was the ringleader. In our freshman year, although Jason Vance and I were in the same class, we weren't familiar. He would occasionally play pranks on me or insult me verbally, but I'd heard so much of it that I no longer took it to heart. The real beginning of my suffering was in our sophomore year. Jason Vance was one of the pair in that puppy love incident reported by the class monitor. He blamed it on me. From that day on, every day at school, I didn't even dare to drink too much water, terrified of encountering trouble on my way to the restroom. Even falling for Victoria Vale was because after school one day, Jason Vance seized the opportunity to corner me in an alley and beat me savagely. And Victoria Vale was the only one who stopped, intervened, and helped me up from the ground. But now, my white moonlight was arm in arm with that demon. Big J, I'm just stating the facts. Chloe Young, shedding her dismissive attitude towards me, beamed and walked over to Jason Vance, taking Victoria Vale's other hand. Oh my, Vicky, you look absolutely stunning today. This red dress looks like it was custom made for you. You two must have good news coming soon, right? Don't forget to invite us to the wedding feast. Victoria Vale smiled, her exquisitely made-up face flawless. She was even more stunningly beautiful than in high school, but in my eyes she looked like a demon disguised in human skin. I wouldn't forget you even if I forgot everyone else, don't worry, she said, pinching Chloe's cheek, then walked to my side with Jason Vance. Jason Vance wore a casual smirk, not even deigning to look me in the eye. Well, if it isn't Scrapper, Sincere Sterling. Still picking up trash these days? Don't tell me you found this suit in a dumpster? Jason Vance was no different from his high school self. Even his tone was the same arrogant one I remembered. I felt like I was back in the nightmare that had plagued me for years. In high school, I did collect trash to gather cardboard and plastic bottles, to make the cold winters more bearable. Jason Vance must have seen me somewhere, because the next day the news of me collecting trash spread throughout the entire school. At that time it caused me immense pain, but now it wouldn't hurt me. There's no shame in struggling to survive. I looked directly at Jason Vance, my voice calm. You seem to know a lot about it. Is it because you've done it often yourself? Which dumpster can one find a suit in? Why don't you tell me? Jason Vance's face darkened instantly. He squared his shoulders about to strike me, but Victoria Vale beside him stopped him. She looked at me, the cloyingly sweet scent of her perfume assaulting my nostrils. Gone was the clean, pleasant smell of shower gel from before. Jace was just concerned about you, Sincere. If you're having difficulties, just tell us. Jace can even introduce you to a job. Victoria Vale's voice was as crisp as before, but the words she spoke were vastly different. I couldn't help but frown. Jace? Victoria, I remember you didn't talk to me like this in high school. You told me that you hated people like Jason Vance the most in your life, those who rely on their family background to run wild. Chapter 3. The moment I finished speaking, the expressions of many people present changed. Victoria Vale's eyes betrayed panic and a hint of resentment. Jason Vance looked at her with slight surprise. Only Chloe Young seemed to have a glint of amusement in her eyes. Run wild? Vicky, did you really say that? Victoria Vale immediately clutched Jason Vance's hand tightly, pressing her body against his arm, pouting slightly, affecting the demeanor of a coquettish young girl. It was just that so many girls were chasing you back then, and it made me uncomfortable, you know. If I didn't use a few little tricks, how would you have ever noticed me? Isn't that how it's written in novels? Making you think this girl is pure, kind, and unpretentious. Victoria Vale's voice was cloyingly sweet, but to me, it was far less appealing than her voice when she used to lead readings on the podium. But it clearly worked on Jason Vance. He immediately showed a satisfied smile, reached out to embrace Victoria Vale's shoulder, then lowered his head and planted a kiss on her brow. When he looked at me again, his eyes were full of provocation and contempt. Sincere Sterling, why are you suddenly bringing this up? If I remember correctly, there were rumors back in high school that you liked Vicky, right? What rumors? That was the truth. Chloe Young immediately picked up his words, standing beside Victoria Vale. The three of them stood in a row, as if conducting some kind of trial against me. And I didn't miss the pride on Victoria Vale's face. It was as if my affection for her was merely a game she played with ease. A game that ended with her victory, just as she had anticipated. Indeed, in our senior year, my diary was discovered. In it, I had vaguely mentioned that I liked a girl in our class. While all the girls were teasing each other, jokingly calling out your husband, Chloe Young guessed that the person I liked was Victoria Vale. I had thought Victoria Vale would be dismissive of my affection, like everyone else, but I never expected her to formally reject me after school. She said she preferred guys with ambition. It was this very sentence that fueled my determination to start my own business during college and never give up, no matter how difficult things got. I couldn't believe that the innocent and romantic Victoria Vale from back then could be eroded by society into what she was today. It was less about giving Victoria Vale one last chance, and more about giving myself one last chance. After Victoria Vale left the private room to go to the restroom, I quietly followed her. Finally, as she was coming out, I stopped her. "Sincere Sterling, is something wrong?" Victoria Vale frowned at me, even taking a cautious step back, as if worried I might do something to harm her. My once hopeful heart despaired considerably because of this gesture. "Victoria, I just wanted to ask you, why are you with Jason Vance? You know what he did to me in high school, and you also said you hated people like Jason Vance the most." "Sincere Sterling, how can you still be so naive?" Victoria Vale crossed her arms, her eyes as cold as a February winter. "Don't I know why I approached you back then? Of course it was for Jason. My target has always been him, always to make him notice me. After all, there were so many pretty girls in school. You didn't really think I cared about you, did you? Don't be foolish. My goal has always been to marry into a wealthy family. You? At best, you were just a simp." As Victoria Vale spoke, she walked past me. Her hair brushed against my cheek and it stung. And my years-long secret crush at this moment abruptly ended. My white moonlight before my very eyes had turned into a pile of mud. Chapter 4. Before I even walked into the private room, I heard a burst of laughter from inside. Chloe Young's voice was the shrillest among them. "No way, did Sincere Sterling really ask you that just now? That's hilarious. He doesn't actually think you like him, does he? He's read too many novels, my God. Does he really think he can make such a comeback?" My left hand holding the doorknob tightened slightly, just as I heard Victoria Vale's casual voice follow. "Tell me about it. I still prefer someone like my Jace, he's much more manly." "Sincere Sterling? Whoever likes him can have him." Just like many years ago, the teasing, mocking, and jeering voices rose and fell. I curled my lips into a mocking smile, not at myself, but at them. So many years had passed, yet they were still the same childish, disgusting, like rats whispering in dark corners. I pushed open the door, and the voices died down instantly. They were adults, after all. They knew enough to badmouth someone behind their back. Under their complicated gazes, I walked step by step to the table and sat down. I didn't know if it was Barnaby Post's deliberate arrangement, but Victoria Vale and Jason Vance were sitting directly opposite me. And the moment I sat down, the classmates originally beside me all moved their chairs away in unison, as if I weren't a person but some source of bacteria. Chloe Young was still the first to break the silence. "Hey, do you guys smell something? That kind of fishy, stinky smell like a trash can?" Barnaby Post ventured, finishing her sentence. Chloe Young laughed, slapped her thigh, and glanced at me with a suggestive hint in her eyes. Yes, exactly, a trash can. Why would a high-end restaurant like this smell of trash? Probably some people. I picked up the water pitcher in front of me and poured it into my glass without even looking up. "If you want to talk about me, just say it openly. Why be so coy? It's been so long since high school graduation, Chloe. Have you made no progress at all, still only knowing how to play these petty tricks?" I scoffed and heard Chloe Young grit her teeth. "Sincere Sterling, you all right? It's rare for everyone to get together. Let's not talk about these unpleasant things. Chloe, I heard you had an interview today?" Victoria Vale, her hair being stroked by Jason Vance, narrowing her eyes like a pampered house cat, interrupted Chloe's words. Chloe Young took a few deep breaths. Ultimately, she didn't dare to contradict Victoria Vale and could only continue with a sullen face. "Yeah, I interviewed at Phoenix Ascent Internet Company." "How did it go?" "Not bad, just a lot of competitors." "Big J, are you familiar with their boss? Maybe you can pull some strings for me?" Chloe Young rested her chin on her hands, her eyes sparkling at Jason Vance. And Jason Vance looked up, nodding casually. Of course, no need to be so polite among old classmates. Hearing this, I was astonished, for no other reason than I was the boss of this company. How did I not know that my relationship with Jason Vance was this good? Unable to hold back, I questioned, "Jason Vance, do you really know their boss?" My words made Jason Vance frown, but he didn't even need to scold me himself. Chloe Young would be the one to step forward. "If Big J doesn't know him, do you? Everyone knows this company is the fastest growing internet company in recent years. Successful people all share the same social circle. But you wouldn't understand these things. You'll never have the chance to touch that class in your lifetime." Chloe Young held her chin high, as if she wasn't going to work for these companies, but to become a shareholder. It was just a pity that, with me around, Chloe Young would never get into the company. I took a sip of tea and placed the cup on the table. "I'm truly sorry, Chloe. If that company hires you, I'll jump off a building right now." Chapter 5. My single sentence successfully dropped the atmosphere in the room to freezing point. Everyone's gaze fell on me. After a moment of silence, what followed was Chloe Young's undisguised laughter. She laughed so hard she slumped over the table, completely devoid of composure, her hands continuously slapping the tabletop, until finally she wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. "I say, Sincere Sterling, are you doing a comedy routine now? Don't be so ridiculous. You'll jump off a building? Who do you think you are? Who cares if you live or die? Don't be so ridiculous. If it weren't for Vicky getting married soon, and everyone wanting to see you make a fool of yourself today, do you think we'd even remember you?" I finally understood why Barnaby Post had insisted I attend the reunion today. So that was it. I looked at Barnaby Post, but he showed no signs of guilt. He even shrugged at me, as if he were the innocent one caught in the crossfire. It was a collective request from our classmates. "I'm really sorry, Sincere Sterling, I didn't want this either. But we're all classmates, sacrificing oneself for others." I sneered, unable to resist lightly tapping my fingers on the table. If my assistant, Alex, were here, he would know that my patience had completely run out. "Sacrifice yourself for others? Why don't you sacrifice yourself then?" "You're a master of guilt-tripping. It was like this in our sophomore year when you pushed me out to take the fall for you. And it's still like this now. So good at protecting yourself. Were you a safe in a past life?" Barnaby Post's hands, resting on the table, clenched into fists. But the image he had maintained for so long made it difficult for him to lash out at me. He could only glare at me with murderous eyes. Just then, the door to the private room was opened by a waiter, and a stream of dishes was placed on the table one by one. Just by their appearance, it was clear they weren't cheap. Barnaby Post forced a smile and said, "This place isn't easy to book. Today, it's all thanks to Jason Vance. Everyone, eat to your heart's content. This meal is on me. None of you need to be polite." Jason Vance continued his words, and for a moment the table was once again filled with voices of adulation, and Jason Vance looked at me, without a trace of a smile on his face, only a tone of lofty condescension in his voice. "Especially you, Sincere Sterling. Eat more. After all, this is probably the only chance you'll get in this lifetime." "Yeah, Sincere Sterling. Hurry up and kneel to thank our Big J Chloe Young." Her mouth stuffed with pastries, winked at Jason Vance. Even a blind person could see she had other intentions towards Jason Vance. And although Jason Vance didn't respond, he didn't seem averse to it either. I picked up a piece of fish from the dish in front of me. It was tender and smooth. I could indeed sense the chef's skill. It was just a pity that I had grown tired of such dishes long ago. Who asked the owner of this restaurant to be my friend? I even owned a part of its shares. I put down my chopsticks and wiped my mouth. "You don't come here often, do you? The specialty here is duck bone soup. The duck bones are ground into powder and simmered into a soup that's fresh, sweet, and delicious. The dishes you ordered here don't really showcase the chef's skills." I looked up at Jason Vance. The classmates around me listened, stunned, and subconsciously asked, "How do you know?" "Oh, I eat here a lot." This time, Jason Vance laughed out loud. Sincere Sterling, you're not going to say you're the manager here, are you? I've met the manager. I'm not. All right, Sincere. No matter how rich you pretend to be, I won't fall for you. Just give up that idea. Victoria Vale sighed, looking at me with a hint of pity in her eyes. Perhaps my past affection for her was too obvious, which made her so confident now. But now, even looking at her for an extra second made my stomach churn. Truly disgusting. And Victoria Vale's phone, lying on the table, rang. Hello? Ah, it's about my husband's car. Chapter 6. Victoria Vale's expression became increasingly colorful as she took the call. After finally hanging up, she gave me a deep look, then let out an exaggerated sigh. Sincere, that tricycle next to Jace's car is yours, right? The security guard wants you to go down and move it, says it's affecting the restaurant's image. I'll have Jace go with you. It wouldn't be good if you scratched his car. Even though we're old classmates, Jace's car isn't cheap, after all. Jason Vance immediately took his car keys out of his pocket, placed them on the table, and said, "The car I drove today isn't that expensive anyway. If it gets scratched, it gets scratched. If you bow to me 3 times and call me Boss Vance, I won't hold it against you. How about that?" As Jason Vance's words fell, mocking smiles appeared on the faces of the classmates around him. My fingers, which had been tapping on the table, finally stopped at this moment. Jason Vance twirled his car keys and casually tossed them into the bowl in front of me. "Here, take a look. This is probably the only time in your life you'll ever see something like this." At this moment, all of Jason Vance's expressions and behaviors from high school flashed before my eyes. His sneer, his insults, his torment, and his curses. Everything, like a series of scrolls, unfolded before me. I took out my phone from my pocket and called my assistant. "That Panamera at the restaurant entrance, wreck it. I'll take full responsibility for all consequences. Haven't I worked my ass off all these years, earned all this money, just so I could live life on my own goddamn terms?" Though my assistant on the other end of the line was bewildered, having followed me for so many years, his mind still compelled him to comply with my words. I hung up the phone, picked up the car keys, and smiled at Jason Vance. "Boss Vance, care to come downstairs with me and see your car?" I hadn't made the call privately. Everyone present had heard what I said. And Chloe Young was the first to react. "Sincere Sterling, are you out of your mind? Wreck it? Can you afford to pay for it?" "Exactly, Sincere. Why put on a brave face when you can't afford it? We all know your situation. Just apologize to Jason Vance, and let's drop this matter." Chloe Young and Barnaby Post played good cop, bad cop, but the meaning behind their words was the same, that I was a liar, and what I said was merely an attempt to save face. Clearly, Jason Vance had no intention of letting me save this face. He stood up, straightened his clothes, then put his arm around Victoria Vale's waist and raised an eyebrow at me. "What's there to be afraid of? Let's go. Sincere, why are you doing this?" I also stood up and looked Victoria Vale up and down. "I'm truly sorry. You're not my type. You look too much like you're on the game." Ignoring Victoria Vale's expression, I turned and walked out of the private room. Behind me, besides Jason Vance and his group, the other classmates also followed. I knew they wanted to see me humiliated. No one would miss such a scene. It was just a pity I was about to disappoint them. When we reached the restaurant entrance, my assistant hadn't arrived yet. Jason Vance leaned against a nearby stone pillar, a cigarette dangling from his lips, about to mock me. "Sincere Sterling, where are they? Making us stand out here in the cold wind? If you don't have the diamond, don't take on the porcelain work. I think you're just—" Jason Vance didn't finish his sentence. In the distance, several large Mercedes-Benzes approached, their headlights exceptionally bright. After the cars stopped, 4 tall men in black suits emerged from each vehicle, each carrying a sledgehammer. Without a word, they walked directly to Jason Vance's car and smashed the front windshield. With a loud bang, the car alarm blared through the night sky, and my assistant, Alex Preston, walked last, step by step, to my side. "Mr. Sterling, as per your instructions, it won't take long to demolish it." Chapter 7. Mr. Sterling. Chloe Young's mouth hung slightly open as she stared at me in disbelief. What, Mr. Sterling? What kind of boss are you? I tilted my chin slightly, signaling my assistant to hand me a cigarette. He immediately took a cigarette case from his pocket, gave me one, and then lit it for me. I turned my head slightly to look at Chloe Young, my tone contemptuous. I told you, if the company hires you, I'll jump off a building. Chloe Young's face turned deathly pale. Meanwhile, Jason Vance, having recovered from his initial shock, let out a sharp scream, flung Victoria Vale's hand away, and rushed towards his car. Stop, damn it, stop it for me. Are you fing deaf or something? Seeing that cursing wasn't stopping them, Jason Vance actually reached out to try and pull away the thugs I had hired. I exhaled a puff of smoke, gave my assistant a look, and he understood immediately, nodding. If anyone gets hurt during the car wrecking, the boss will handle it all. Those thugs were men of the world. Hearing this, they showed no hesitation. An elbow strike sent Jason Vance sprawling to the ground, clutching his stomach, and the sledgehammers in their hands, intentionally or unintentionally, kept landing on Jason Vance's body. His screams, accompanied by the sounds of smashing, were like a choir's performance. Sincere, you can't do this to Jace. He's the heir to the Vance family. Victoria Vale still wanted to speak up for Jason Vance. I chuckled lowly, turning back to look at her as if she were an idiot. The Vance family? Victoria, you don't really think Jason Vance now is the same as the Jason Vance back then, do you? Times are progressing. Companies that refuse to adapt will eventually be abandoned by the era, and they are among the first to be abandoned. Upon hearing my words, Victoria Vale immediately loosened her grip on the corner of my clothes. Her voice trembled as she staggered backward. How? How is that possible? Impossible. If I were Victoria Vale, I would break down too. To have schemed since high school to get her hands on a man, only to find out at the brink of success that everything was merely an illusion. How could she not break down? But attempting to rely on others for success, this is the ultimate end. Vicky, don't listen to Sincere Sterling's nonsense. How could our family possibly go bankrupt? Jason Vance, still on the ground, remained stubborn. I didn't mind making his despair even more complete. After finding Walter Vance's phone number in my assistant's extensive contact list, I dialed it directly. As I recall, they seemed to have a project they wanted to collaborate with me on. It was just that I had rejected them at the very beginning. Upon hearing my name, Jason Vance's father immediately and unhesitatingly agreed to come, his tone sounding exceptionally elated. Hanging up the phone, I stood in the cold wind, smoking. The sports car nearby had already become a pile of scrap metal. The thugs, having received their money, didn't leave immediately but still stood by with their sledgehammers. I didn't move, and the people behind me dared not move either. Only Barnaby Post, rubbing his hands, walked up, attempting to strike up a conversation with me. Sincere, since you've become so successful after graduation, why did you never come to the reunions? I looked at the fawning smile on his face. I had only seen him show such an expression to others before. Now he was actually showing it to me. Ash fell to the ground. I replied softly, "Oh, maybe because you all didn't need a show to watch back then." He chuckled a couple of times, racking his brains to come up with other topics, but I didn't want to listen to his brown-nosing anymore. Barnaby, if I were you, I'd shut up right now. Maybe then I'll forget about you. If you continue to annoy me, who knows, I might just remember some of our past grievances. The smile on his face froze, and he ultimately didn't dare to speak further. I glanced again at Chloe Young cowering in a corner, and at Victoria Vale, standing nearby with vacant eyes, and shook my head. If only they had known then what they knew now. Why did they act that way in the first place? Chapter 8. Jason Vance's father, Walter Vance, had clearly rushed over. When he got out of the car, he was even wearing one shoe incorrectly. He held a contract in his hand and approached me with a fawning expression. But before he could speak, he saw Jason, bruised and swollen, lying on the ground. This is... Dad. It was Sincere Sterling who had people beat me. You have to get revenge for me. Jason Vance groaned, shouting at his father, his eyes filled with fury directed at me. Unfortunately for him, he had miscalculated. Not only did his father not seek revenge for him, but he shot him a fierce glare. "Shut up, you useless thing. You must have offended Mr. Sterling somewhere to be taught a lesson I told you long ago to be amiable. Look what you've done now." After reprimanding Jason, he turned back to me, the anger on his face instantly vanishing. The speed of his change in expression was so fast he could have entered a Sichuan face-changing competition. "Mr. Sterling, this son of mine is a disappointment. You can teach him a lesson however you see fit. Regarding this collaboration matter, I signaled my assistant beside me to take the contract, then walked over to Jason Vance and pressed the nearly burnt-out cigarette in my hand directly onto the back of his hand. Although his father's eyes showed a hint of pain, he didn't step forward to stop me. Jason Vance's screams sounded particularly tragic in the night. But what were these compared to what he had done to me in high school? "I hear Mr. Vance has another son?" Jason Vance's screams stopped abruptly. He suddenly raised his head and looked at me, his bloodshot eyes wide with disbelief. "Sincere Sterling, who do you think you are? How dare you?" "Yes, I do indeed have another son." He wiped the sweat from his forehead, but still answered my question. It was just that this son was not Jason's full brother, but the child of his mistress, who had only returned to the Vance family a few years ago. Originally, someone of such status would have had no chance of inheriting the family fortune. But now, things were uncertain. The main account is ruined, so just switch to an alt account to level up, wouldn't you say, Mr. Vance? I looked at Jason Vance on the ground but didn't speak to him. Jason Vance's father didn't respond immediately, but eventually he gritted his teeth and nodded. I knew he wasn't convinced, and I knew he harbored hatred in his heart. But so what? The first thing Jason Vance taught me was that in this world, the weak are prey to the strong. And now I was merely returning that lesson to him. It was just an eye for an eye. Having received a satisfactory answer, I nodded and patted Walter Vance's shoulder. "Thank you for making the trip tonight. Vance Corp is, after all, an established enterprise. Rest assured I will certainly help where I can." Only at this moment did he finally breathe a sigh of relief. His eyes even held a hint of gratitude as he looked at me. He didn't even dare to ask about Jason, just shook my hand, thanked me several times, and left, leaving Jason Vance alone, lying on the ground, watching the taillights of the car. I squatted in front of Jason Vance, reached out and patted his face, blocking his view of the car. "Jason Vance, how about this? You kneel on the ground and call me Dad 3 times and I'll let you off. How about it?" These were the exact words Jason Vance had said to me in high school. At that time, I refused to yield, and the price was being locked in a dark room for an entire night. Until last year, I suffered from severe claustrophobia. Jason Vance gritted his teeth and said, "Word by word, you..." Wish I stood up, no longer looking at him. Good guts. Then just lie there. Get up once and they'll hit you once until you can't get up anymore. I lifted my foot to leave, but Jason Vance behind me called out to stop me. Wait, I stopped, but didn't turn around. "Dad! Dad!" Dad, Jason Vance's voice came from behind me. Listening to it, my body trembled uncontrollably. Finally. Did you see that 16-year-old Sincere Sterling? I've avenged you, Chapter 9. I waved my hand, and the waiting thugs put away their clubs and got into their cars. Behind me, Jason Vance's voice was weak as he called out, "Vicky, come and help me up." However, Victoria Vale, who had been so obedient to him in the private room just moments ago, now completely ignored his voice. No matter how much Jason Vance shouted, Victoria Vale seemed deaf. She just stared blankly at me, then walked step by step towards me, blocking my way. "Is there something you need?" I raised an eyebrow. Victoria Vale clutched her skirt, looking up at me. If I hadn't just heard her undisguised mockery of me looking at Victoria Vale's eyes now, I might have thought she was desperately in love with me. "Sincere, did you build your company for me? Was it to be with me?" This question, before tonight, I had dreamed of it many times, but now I only found it laughable. so I actually laughed out loud, just as mockingly as Victoria Vale's laughter earlier. Victoria Vale, have you read too many novels? What part of you do you think is worth me cherishing for so long? For you. Who do you think you are? My words left no room for ambiguity. Any normal girl, upon hearing them, would want to find a hole to crawl into. But clearly, Victoria Vale was not a normal girl. She bit her lip, looking at me, her voice without a trace of evasion. I know you like me. You've liked me since high school. Sincere, let's not miss each other again. That's right, she knew. She had always known. But Sincere Sterling's affection was worthless to her. What she wanted was Mr. Sterling's affection, the boss's affection, a rich man's affection. I didn't want to get entangled with Victoria Vale any further, so I just walked past her. Crazy. Those were the last 2 words I said to Victoria Vale. As the car slowly started moving, I looked at the varied expressions on the faces of the people standing at the restaurant entrance, and I couldn't help but find human nature utterly ridiculous. Passing by Barnaby Post, I rolled down the car window. The owner of this place is a friend of mine. I reckon Jason Vance probably doesn't have much money left now. Use my name, you'll get a discount. Save where you can. One last glance, I looked at Jason Vance on the ground. His fists were clenched, like a defeated lion. Later, I intentionally inquired about Jason Vance. The heir to the Vance family had indeed been changed. Jason Vance had become a discarded pawn. His younger brother, Ethan Vance, was far more outstanding than him, or at least not the kind of social scum who would engage in school bullying during high school. Naturally, Victoria Vale failed to marry into wealth. She and Jason Vance also went their separate ways. I heard it was a very ugly breakup. The 2 of them got into a huge fight on the street and were taken to the police station. I saw Victoria Vale again at a banquet. She was arm in arm with a middle-aged man, the smile on her face no longer as flamboyant as before. When I came back to my senses, I saw my girlfriend, Sophie Miller, walking towards me from not far away. I used to think that a white moonlight would hang high in the sky forever. Only later did I realize that being human, I should be with a normal person. What are you thinking about? Nothing much, just saw a pile of mud.